3, 2, 1. 100 episodes. Holy shit, guys. I can't believe it. 100 episodes we've done this podcast. 100 times we've watched free movies and bitched about nothing. And 100 times you've all graced us with your lovely presence. How are you doing, guys? It's the 100th episode special, or as my friend Devon calls it, So Let It Be Written, So Let It Be Done, the Rewriter's Corner. This episode, I decided to take a slightly unique concept. Everybody has their fan theories about how a film can be restructured and changed to be better. I think it's time to put that to the test. With 3 different movies. I'm your host, Ian Taylor. Join me tonight for the 100th episode special is my co-host, friend, artist, musician, filmmaker, and everything else, Devon King, along with American filmmaker and special guest just hopping on now, Stephen Beason. How are you guys doing tonight?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm so glad you guys, decided to start without me.
Well, I'm so glad you decided to show up 27 minutes late.
Hey, he's getting into character for Brian Singer.
Ian was gone for 15 minutes, in fairness.
Okay, and then you were gone for an additional 17. Gotcha.
No, he's getting in character for Brian Singer. Don't worry.
No, this is our 100th episode. Wait, Steven, when did you start with us? Was it like the 42nd episode, or was it like the 40th
No,
episode?
I actually go further back than that. I was my first appearance. I believe the first official time you guys had me as a guest was episode 35.
Wow,
that was
holy crap.
That was Dog Day Afternoon, Reservoir Dogs.
That's right.
We reviewed it. Yeah.
Oh yes, the dog trilogy. So how many episodes have we done together now? That's the real question.
Oh gosh,
God.
I've lost count.
It has to be at least double digits.
Has to be double digits because there was a while there that I was on every week, and now I'm kind of every other week or when you need a backup.
Oh yeah, so I'm gonna estimate somewhere between 40 something episodes and 69 something episodes.
Yes, exactly. And it's good to be a part of the family. My God.
Yes.
100 episodes. Come on, guys. That's awesome.
Holy crap. And we can't thank you guys enough. Special shout out to everybody who guest starred on the show. Not just Stephen Beason, but of course, people like Bernard Petit, our good friend and film connoisseur, our good animator Drew Adams, one of my personal best friends, Riley Ray, has been on the show before. Daryl and Jamar, special shout out to you guys. Holy shit.
Daryl Jamara, Tad, Matthew Bertelli, going way back. Yeah. Love to have you on the show again, buddy.
My friend
Evan Waring,
Elizabeth Greedy.
Yeah.
I mean, it has been. Wow.
So many people on here.
It's been quite a journey, yes.
My good friend Jessica Jibb has been on here before for a really fun Shrek episode. Just all kinds of people. And we're looking forward to get even more kinds of people on this show for another 100 episodes in the future.
Oh, yeah. Man, this is...
some changes coming up. We've got some new things. We want to really kind of reinvigorate the show now having done... Well, just getting into now 100 episodes. So... Stay tuned for more things.
No, and I will say, I mean, this has been an incredible outlet for myself as well. So I want to personally thank you guys because this is something definitely, that you look forward to. I mean, it's just in a way we're doing a film podcast, and it's just movie criticism and all this kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, it just feels like hanging out with your buddies, and that's rare to come by these days. So, man, thank you guys for making me a part and being my friends. Holy crap, 100!
Yeah, man.
Wow.
Thanks for being on. I mean, from the get-go, it was like a Facebook post where we were pitching trilogy ideas, and you just kind of got the formula right off the bat. So,
no, I think well, it's funny because even before I did join the show, I did put in a request. And I think it was 7 Psychopaths, and there was another one I can't remember, but it was the 7 trilogy.
7 Samurai.
Yeah, that was it. There you go.
Yeah, and we had Matt on for that one. I keep wanting to follow that up with the Magnificent Seven, the Seventh Seal, and Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, which
Ooh.
only makes 6 films, but technically there's 7 sevens between those things.
Yeah, we
I
need a
keep
fourth
wanting to
film.
follow that up.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, no,
Jackpot.
no. Or you just do Seven Brides for Seven Brothers, and you technically have 7 sevens
Nice.
Yeah,
across
2
six
films in
films.
one. 2 birds, 1 stone.
Exactly.
Oh god, tonight, guys, I gotta open up with a question, and the question is, who put the glad in Gladiator?
Hercules.
Yeah, come on,
Yeah.
Devin, that was your
Well,
cue. You fucked it up.
We were supposed to
For
sing
our
that.
100th
Hercules.
episode.
Yeah. We are so on the show we talk shit about movies, but we also talk much praise about movies. But we're not just cynical internet uh chair sitting film critics. We are also aspiring
Outraged
filmmakers, writers,
snobs.
basement dwellers. No. So we decided we wanted to put our money where our mouth is. And we wanted to try to bring up these films that we enjoy or endure, that we at least in some way or another see a lot of potential in, um, and want to give it our own spin. I will say though, with Hercules, I remember I just finished rewatching this myself. It's so bizarre just how much of a subconscious influence it's had on me. Like it's one of those Disney movies I watched kind of over and over to death, like wearing down the tape on the VCR, but I haven't revisited since. So it's just such a surreal experience going back. It's like rediscovering an old dream and just being
Well,
hit with deja
and
vu.
I kind of want to get this out of the way because again, this is our 100th episode. This was a little different. We're looking at films that we think there's potential in. We're going to try and rewrite, see what we could do differently. The reason I say that, and I really stress that, is because if you look at the episodes that we've done, especially on our channel, they've usually had some kind of theme. So, we reviewed a trilogy of Westerns. We reviewed, Eyes Wide Shut with David Cronenberg's Crash and Society. And it's about like rich people and their kinky problems. But it's like, there's usually some kind of theme. And I have to say, this is probably the most bizarre collection of films with almost nothing in common. And I kind of love it.
There is one thing that I kind of saw in common with these 3 films, and that's perhaps the problem with mythologizing figures. In some sense or another.
Man, that's pretty smooth. I like that. That's pretty slick.
Oh man, that was super smooth.
I think you're maybe giving these too much credit, but we'll.
No, but seriously, that's what this show is. It's about taking highbrow and lowbrow art and showing how there's very little difference between them, but also how vividly different interpretations can coalesce in a shared idea.
Absolutely.
Like there's a lot, there are no new ideas under the sun. Everything kind of gets regurgitated and recycled and repurposed and reused at some point. But how you spin it, how you interpret things, and how you deconstruct and reconstruct things makes all the difference. And that's what we like to examine on the show. And I think good constructive criticism comes from where you give the film credit where it's due, you give it its merits, you kind of take away the parts that don't work for you, or you kind of deconstruct it, but you still leave kind of the structural without like corrupting the structural integrity, and then you reconstruct it. Generally speaking, we just tend to do the deconstruction on the show, but I do think we should make an effort to really be more constructive with our criticisms.
Well, and I'll say this much. I mean, this. I lost my train of thought. I'm so excited tonight. Oh my gosh.
The train's left the station.
Well,
we're
let's
going full steam ahead.
And this is all recorded live.
So.
Yeah. Yes, this is this was what was considered a deep flaw of ours, that we could never went back and edited them. But the fact that we kind of pushed through regardless, and really emphasize the performance of it. I really kind of like this angle that we have. It's like Gonzo podcasting, where
Yeah,
it's all on the table, warts and all.
it makes it more
speaking
fun.
of
Warts and all.
Speaking of Gonzo and other Disney properties.
So Hercules, this was my choice. We each picked our own films, and this was my choice. Hercules, the Disney classic directed by
You mean Hercules?
Yeah, Hercules. Directed by Ron Clements and John Musker, who were both just off the hot success of Aladdin, which was a huge hit. Everybody loved it, made a ton of money. So, surprise, surprise, there was a lot of pressure to put on their new project. So they decided it was finally time to take on Greek mythology and tackle the legend of Hercules, or the Roman title, Hercules. And the movie is all about completely going against the actual Greek myth and presenting a more sanitized and more kid-friendly depiction of the legend of Hercules. So where Hercules is taken away from his home in Olympus as a wee lad, the god responsible is Hades, voiced brilliantly by James Woods, who wishes to take over Olympus one day and believes that Hercules is the only one who can stop him. But as Hercules grows up and Hades realizes that his minions failed to kill him, Hercules works his way from zero to hero, while Hades continues to stop Hercules any way he can, along with his minions and his lovely assistant Megara, but her friends call her Meg, if she had any friends. Now, gentlemen, before I go into my whole spiel about this film, because I've had a long history with this movie, for better or for worse, I'd like to know what your guys' thoughts on Hercules are before I start kind of deconstructing it, as I will.
Fair enough. Well, like I said, this is the first time I've rewatched this film in what feels like 15 or 20 years. Probably closer to 20 years now. Damn. Because I used to watch this one on rotation with a bunch of other Disney films that we had in like those clamshell cases that unfortunately all got kind of beat up over time. They're so valuable these days. Holy shit. If they were mint condition. But anyway, I'm not gonna cry over that. But yeah, just I don't know, the painterly backgrounds in this really had an impression on me that I didn't realize until I revisited them. Like I've become a huge fan of the artwork of the artist Zdzisław Beksiński, and these kind of invoke that a little bit. I mean, in a very Disney sense, but yeah, some of the backgrounds and just the Greek god kind of myths, I think they've kind of permeated into some of my own writing a little bit unconsciously, which yeah, coming back to this was really quite a kind of a rediscovery. Like, oh, that's where I stole that idea from. Shit.
What about you, Stephen?
Well, it's actually funny because, I of course, like many a young wee lad, I had a ton of the original like Disney VHS tapes. And like you're talking about the clamshell, like,
yep,
I don't have any of them anymore. You guys, anyway, Hercules was one of those that I didn't actually see until I was older. I didn't see it until I was like probably, I had to be almost around 10. Now, I think it did come out probably just a couple of years after I was born. But I remember having to wait a little longer than usual to see it, whereas the other Disney films I would watch no problem. But I think my mom in particular was very like worried about, because I had like a fit, like I had just cried like over watching Hunchback of Notre Dame. And so you see you see Hercules and it's like, ooh, here's this god of the dead or whatever. Maybe don't watch that. But
I thought she was concerned that you'd be influenced by polytheism.
Oh yeah, of course. No, no, I mean, but no, I mean, I did watch it. It's been forever since I saw it, and kind of rewatched it, and revisited it. Yeah, this was probably the best of the three films we're going to talk about tonight.
Easily.
Ooh.
I kind of dug it.
Oh, nice. What'd you like about it?
It's not. Well, I mean, I feel like it's over ambitious.
Yes, very.
But I kind of admire it in a weird way.
All
and
right.
here's the thing: I think you kind of glossed over this a bit, Ian, where it's like they didn't just do Aladdin; they actually did The Little Mermaid first.
Oh, I was just saying that was their most recent outing. Like they did tons of movies for sure.
So
that's a relevant fact.
These two directors went to the board. Jeffrey Katzenberg, I think, was like the head of Disney at the time, and they were like, "Hey, we've got an animated movie, and we want to make this version of The Little Mermaid." And they were like, "Oh, that sounds great." And then they were like, "We also want to make this thing that's like Treasure Island in space." And they were like, "No, you can make Little Mermaid." So they did Little Mermaid. They came back. "Okay, we're ready to do Treasure Island in space." "We're not ready for that. That sounds dumb."
You do Aladdin, yeah.
we got Aladdin until eventually they had to do one more film to prove they were capable of like being, top earners for Disney. This was that film that succeeded and allowed them to go make Treasure Planet. So,
which we talked about on the show before, by the way.
Well, it's kind of so Hercules is kind of this weird like middle ground where it's like I don't want to say that they're not passionate about it because they're obviously putting a lot of effort into it.
Very passionate, yeah.
Yeah, on a technical level, I agree. Yeah.
But this is almost like the stepping stone to get to what they really want to do.
It really feels like that.
Yeah. And I mean, I don't hate it. I don't know. It's here's the thing, like on its own, it's probably fine. It's fine. That's like the best I can say about it. There's some fantastic voice performances.
Yep.
The animation is great. It does have a few moments that I actually genuinely laughed at, even today. But here's the thing. It's like when you compare this to what is considered the Disney Renaissance in terms of like Aladdin, The Lion King,
Beauty
Mulan. Yeah, this is not great at all.
There are moments in this. There are moments that feel really sincere, really like heartfelt. And I remember just like having like those dramatic moments where you thought like Hercules died for a second. Like obviously now like I see the twist coming, but you kind of feel that moment when you're really young because you don't know because you're not sure, right? Like it's kind of spooky. But there are moments in this that absolutely stand out as a contrast. All the musical numbers, for example, they're very little, kind of wackadoodle, but they're fun at the same time. Like it feels like this was kind of the between, the Disney Renaissance and then what became of Emperor's New Groove. Although I think they kind of fully embraced the more absurd parts when they got to that movie. But one thing that really stuck out watching it this time was the merchandising, which I had one of those like little Hercules cups that looked like the columns,
Hercules,
but kind of elongated. Yeah, and I like unironically wanted like one of those figures because they had it in the movie. But no, like it totally like went over my head, just like the absurdity of the merchandising. And when I watch that now, I'm just like laughing, like yeah, that was the '90s. And still today, the fucking air Hercs. And also, right. This movie predates the Vine, where the kid goes, "What are those?"
Yes, this movie inspired that Vine, and that whole scene in general is really funny. Yeah. Oh, they reference it. Black Panther.
And then gets referenced. It's like it's Ouroboros. It's pop culture eating itself.
Yeah, it's
coming back into Disney.
Now, before I kind of get into my spiel, like I do want to preface, I don't hate this movie either, and yeah, the animation is great, the voice work is terrific. James Woods and Megra's voice actors in particular are really, really good. And in terms of comedy, like, it's no Lion King or Emperor's New Groove, but it's pretty solid stuff. Like, I always get a kick out of when Hades is like, my worst rival dying. Is there any downside to this? Like, a lot of this stuff
just
actually
like trapped forever in a river of death.
Yeah, trapped forever in a river of death. Or like when he was pissed off and he like smoked like the whole cigar at once. It's like there's a lot of stuff that I actually thought was pretty funny.
Oh yeah,
he's my second favorite character. Yeah,
I love the part where they're like, call IXII.
Yeah, I thought that was an FBI joke. But then you made me realize that was a 911 joke because that's the Roman numerals. But I thought it was an FBI joke because they were kids.
Well, and here's the thing, though. I mean, if you actually like squint at that, it doesn't quite work because this is all about Greek gods, and they're using Roman numerals.
Well,
but it's kind of funny.
The Romans copied their gods from the Greeks.
Oh, there's a lot of Roman references, yeah. Even like
that was
Glad and Gladiator. It's like gladiators were not a Greek thing. That was a part of Roman.
No, they're definitely mixing up the cultures a little bit.
Absolutely.
Although one did steal a lot of stuff from the other, but they are kind of mixing up a lot of things for sure.
Absolutely.
Oh, definitely. And I noticed that in a lot of reviews too, with like people who were like, "It's not Hercules, it's Heracles," or whatever.
That's a nitpick.
It's like who cares? I really wonder what Stas Hatius thinks of this movie.
Yeah, that's true. I just want to say, like, I am a huge fan of Greek mythology. Like, back in high school, like, I was at a school that I hated. Like, I was picked on by everybody. I didn't really, like, just find a place to belong. But then I kind of looked at Greek mythology, and it made me realize, yeah, the world is a morally ambiguous place. It's full of pain and torment, but despite all of this, there could be moments of heroism and love in spite of all of the chaos. Like, Greek mythology was the first kind of actual legends that made me realize this, and it helped me kind of cope with what I was going through. Like, I have a huge connection with Greek mythology. Lots of people love to make fun of it and say, oh, it's just about gods being horny, but I think there's so much more to the mythology than that. So part
of me kind of horny and heroic.
Exactly. You can be both. You can be both things at the same time. But
heroically horny.
And I kind of wonder, would I dislike this movie as much if I was not big into Greek mythology? Probably not. But because I'm such a huge fan of Greek mythology, I think a story about Hercules, like one of the biggest legends of all time, Disney's first foray into Greek mythology, I just think it could be a lot better. And I think from the get-go, my biggest issue with this movie is that Hercules is so boring. They basically just do the Captain America route where he's like, oh, I'm such a nice guy, and I just need to be ripped, and then everybody can see I'm a nice guy. Like, that's not that interesting, I'm afraid. Like, a hero's journey should be an actual journey. Like, that's such a great opportunity to show, like, a real change with the character.
You made the statement, this is their first foray into Greek mythology. Have they ever done anything with Greek mythology after?
After, I don't think so. I think there's been references to Greek mythology in, like, other anime movies, but I don't think they've ever done anything after, which is a little bit disappointing.
Yeah.
That they didn't at least try it, because there is so much. Again, like you said, it's very ambitious and maybe too ambitious, but I think there are a few changes you could do to make it work. And first and foremost, you gotta give Hercules a character arc. And my idea for a character arc is that by the start of the story, he's kind of arrogant. Like, he has all of these great powers and all of this amazing stuff that, maybe he kind of lets that get to his head. Like, he's being raised by human parents that don't really understand how the powers work, so he doesn't really understand how the powers work. And because of that, like, my biggest issue from the get-go was, like, nothing that happened in the village was his fault. They basically just got mad at him for natural causes, but what if it was his fault? Like, hear me out. Like, what if his father told him, don't show off, but he's doing, like, all these normal tasks, and it's really boring and really dull, and at one point he's like, I just gotta carry this one heavy object. I just gotta show off a little bit. I gotta show off what I can do, and because of that, that causes chaos, and people get mad at him for that. And I feel like that would
Mm-hmm.
have made the moment so much better, because as it stands, it's like, oh, you're just going for the you just gotta feel bad for him route. But this way, it's like you feel bad for him, but he made a mistake that he has to grow out of and learn from. And that's, I don't know, that to me is more interesting. And his arc throughout the story is kind of like getting over his arrogance and learning that there's kind of more to life, because there's a whole idea that is like, oh, being a hero is more about just being famous and getting powers, but the Hercules in the Disney movie is never about that. Hercules is always a really nice guy. There is absolutely no reason he shouldn't be bamfed up to Olympus as soon as he killed the Hydra, because there's no arc. But if he had an actual arc, he had to actually grow as a person, then that would make way more sense. But as it is,
No,
it's just like there's no reason for him not to
I,
be brought up to Olympus.
No, I actually agree with you. And this is one thing that I did kind of take issue with overall. Is like, there's the whole sequence in the middle. We were kind of joking about it earlier with like the air hercs or whatever. There's like this almost like, and because it's a product of the 90s, it's like that whole Michael Jordan sort of sensation that Hercules becomes.
Yeah.
But it kind of feels, I mean, and it's funny, but it kind of feels like wasted potential, because you think about Aladdin, his whole arc was like, he's arrogant and cocky, and he only wants these, fame and fortune and riches really just so that he can succeed, so that he can kind of, he equates that with being a hero. And through the entire film, Aladdin learns to be more selfless. And, the whole sort of climax of the film where he lets Genie free, whereas earlier in the film, he said, you can't leave because then I'll lose all my fame and fortune and nobody will like me. But in Hercules, it's like the fame and fortune just kind of happens to him. And he doesn't really ever abuse it.
Yeah, he should abuse it. That's another change I had in the story. He should absolutely abuse it. Like, he should, like...
Yeah.
And here's the thing, Danny DeVito should encourage it. Danny DeVito's character, that's another change I wanted to do, is where he starts off as arrogant, he doesn't really like Hercules that much, but instead of him just wanting, like, somebody to show off, his real reason is that he's afraid to let people die. And we find that out as the story goes along, instead of just being like, oh, well, these guys just died and they made me look bad. Like, have him say that at first as like a shield, and then, like, as the story goes on, he's like, I can't lose anybody else. Everybody I've taught has died. Like, I can't lose anybody else. It's almost like the film was building up to that, but it kind of just peters out to a point where it's just like, oh, that's Philip's boy. It's like, I don't care about this guy. Like, he's such a dick. But if you gave him an arc, that could have more effect.
Here's the thing. I care about him because he's Danny DeVito.
Yeah, he's Danny DeVito. He's funny. Yeah, that's just it. Like, slap another actor onto him, and, like, would he be as likable? And
absolutely.
Next problem, there are way too many comic relief characters. There are 4, arguably 5 comic relief characters in this movie. Why?
Oh yeah, that's one part that really dated itself. Like, I remember being a tiny kid and gut busting laughing during those scenes, and I watch them now and they're just like, okay, that's there.
Yeah, I know. And the biggest offender to me is, like, the Pegasus is a little much, but okay, he's kind of cute, I guess, and he can sell more Pegasus toys. Danny DeVito, like, if you give him the changes I suggested, I think he could work a lot better.
Mm-hmm.
Panic and Pain are terrible. I
hate
those two.
I don't like Panic or Pain. I try to eliminate them out of my life as much as possible.
And I hate them in this movie. Like, every time they show up, it's just, oh god, whoops, oh jeez, oh god, sorry boss, oh jeez, oh look at my big bum. Like, just the dumbest, most juvenile human. Yeah, they're bumbling henchmen, and they're so annoying, and their voices are terrible, and they aren't funny.
Isn't it fitting though? Because that's how I feel whenever I'm panicking and in pain. I feel like how they look.
I feel like giving too much credit.
I'm gonna play devil's advocate.
Hades advocate.
Yeah. There was one line that did make me laugh slightly, and it's in the very beginning when Pain and Panic are first introduced, and one of them says, "I'm coming, your most lugubriousness." I was like, okay, that kind of got a chuckle out of me.
It's like one healthy little chortle.
But here's the thing:
No,
Hades
exactly.
and Megara are already hilarious together. Those two have such a good rapport
Oh yeah.
that I don't know. Take Pain and Panic out of the movie. That is my suggestion. Take those two out of the movie and just focus on Hades and Megara. Like, those two have such a funny dynamic. Hades is hilarious. Like, he gets the most laughs out of me in the entire movie. We haven't even talked about the "you're wearing his merchandise." Like, I get a crack out of it.
Okay, Ian.
Yeah.
Who would you replace Pain and Panic with? Or would you replace them and have someone else do their role? Or would you
Megara would take the role.
Or would you recreate their characters from the ground up so that they're not just bumbling comic reliefs, but like actual menacing henchmen?
I would take them out and just focus on Megara. Because here's the thing. Who's going to kill Hercules at the start of the story? Hera is going to kill Hercules at the start of the story. And here's why.
Okay, this is from the actual myth.
This is from the actual myth, but I'm going to try and avoid being too dark for Disney standards, but just dark enough that I could squeeze into that Disney Renaissance era. So Hera, they address the fact that Hercules is not her son. And at the beginning of the story, Zeus is maybe like ignoring Hera and just focusing on Hercules, and everybody else is focusing on Hercules, and maybe Hera feels like a little bit left out. And in this version, like, Hades, after he finds out the fates about the fate of Hercules, he goes to her and basically manipulates her, and it's like, well, does it suck to be left out, you know? Like, everything was fine until this kid came along, and he manipulates her into trying to kill Hercules. And she, uses the snakes, like in the Greek mythology, but there's a scene where, like, she kind of sees, like, the innocence in Hercules, and she can't go through with it. Instead, she kicks him out. She gets him out of Mount Olympus and claims that he went missing.
Well, okay, because I'm glad you brought this up, because this was one plot hole that I really had a problem with when I was watching this. So the two goons, Pain and Panic, they have to get the baby Hercules to suck on this little bottle of, like, mortality juice or whatever, and it's never even explained why Hades has this or why he saved it for this
Hera
long.
has it. Yeah.
Well, why he wouldn't just try to slip it in Zeus's drink to begin with?
Yeah, like, why don't you just kill Zeus? That would solve all your problems.
So it's like, okay, he's gonna go through all this trouble to wait till there's a kid that's born, and he's gonna force this mortality potion onto the baby. And of course, these, like, bumbling henchmen, they, like, fail.
Yeah, because they're bumbling henchmen.
No, and that's fine. But, like, what bothers me is that they look at each other and they're like, well, they're not gonna find out. But it's like, he's the Lord of the Underworld.
And here's the thing: Zeus finds out. Yeah, and he would know. Like, Zeus would probably tell him, like, out of grievance.
Not know that the kid isn't dead.
Yeah, exactly. But here's the thing: in my version, Hera would say he goes missing, and Hades would take that as, she killed him. He just wanted to tell Zeus he went missing, or something like that. Because obviously she wouldn't want to tell her husband that she just killed Hercules. Like, that would be a terrible idea. And the thing is, she would probably have access to, like, the mortal juice in Mount Olympus. There's, like, somebody that she could go to get this juice. Instead of, like, Hades having it for no reason, Hera would have access to it. And as the story goes along, Hera kind of sees, like, Hercules' noble act and kind of, like, begins to regret what she did, and kind of learned that, like, this is a son that she should accept as her own. So it's more in line with the mythology, but it's not so dark that it couldn't work for a Disney movie. And it adds, like, a little more meat to her character. You know? Like, gives her a bit of an arc, too. You can cut back to them semi-regularly, too, on Mount Olympus.
No, I mean, that could work. I could see that. I think you've... Yeah. No, I think you're onto something here. I mean, my kind of takeaway from this was I remember it being like I didn't remember a lot about it, and when I rewatched it, especially after I had watched the other two films this week, I was like, oh, that's kind of cute, you know.
That's nice, yeah.
It could definitely be better. I agree with you, and I think it would be better if you made some of the changes that you're talking about here. But like, I don't know. There's something about this film, like, I don't want to say hard to hate. Like it's like I don't know, man. There's
it's charming.
It's hard to say mad at. Yeah,
charms.
it is charming. It has its charms, but also it does have its like. There's a lot of tonal whiplash.
Yes.
Oh, very
much.
Oh
my god.
And it's not to the level that like Hunchback of Notre Dame was, because I think that arguably does not have as much of a consistent tone, if that says anything. But there's still moments where I'm watching it and I'm like, now it's like really dark and sad, and I thought it was just light and happy, and I kind of wish it would go back to being like light and happy, or at least like,
or the opposite. Yeah.
No, exactly. Yeah.
Like there's a scene near the end where like Hercules like saves Megra, and it's this really emotional, like intense scene. And then like Hades just says some funny bits. I'm like, no, like you ruined the emotional beat of the scene.
Well, there's also a moment, and it is towards the end of the film, where it's like he goes, down and he finds out that Meg has died, and it's like, oh my god,
yeah,
I've lost
that whole sequence.
The love of...
Like, it's like that whole sequence is what kind of stayed with me for some reason.
That's a good scene.
And it's
going
like,
into this kind of ocean of lost souls. I mean,
no. Well, it's before he gets to the underworld, but it's like he finds her body and Phil's like, oh my god, she's dead. They have this moment, and then like 2 seconds later, it's like he's lassoing the tornado monster, and it's like, I thought the love of your life just died.
Yeah, I know. And
it's
that climax,
it's like tonal whiplash.
Yeah, in my version, the climax drastically changes, because the film felt rushed up until this point, but at the climax, holy shit, it's like they snorted a line of cocaine and began speed running for the rest of the movie. Holy shit. Because here's the biggest plot hole in this movie. Why doesn't Hades just kill Hercules? I thought that's what they were setting up. Like, alright, no harm will come to Meg. No harm will come to her. Yeah, I promise I won't do her any harm. And then, after the deal was done, you should have said, oh, by the way, I said no harm would come to her. I didn't say anything about you. Like, why does he just kill him? And some people I talked to this about, and they're like, oh, it's too dark to kill somebody in the Hercules Disney movie. Like, first off, people already die, and second off, the very existence of Hades in your movie addresses that people die. Like, it doesn't have to be a brutal death or anything. Hades can just touch him and, like, he passes out or something along those lines. But kill him! But here's the thing, later on, he gets, like, this dumbass fucking giant cyclops to do it for him. But it's like, you already sent people to do your job, and it failed. Why wouldn't you finally take matters into your own hands? So
you know what I think is, like, a pivotal flaw of this movie?
What's that?
Megara has a better arc.
She has the only arc. That was my notes in the movie. She is the only character in this entire movie that has a fucking character arc. But here's the thing: if in my version her arc would reflect Hercules' arc, and they would both play off each other. But in this movie, she's the only one that has an arc. Like, well, the love interest that gets like 20 minutes of screen time shouldn't get more of a character arc than the other character, the main character of the fucking movie. And in my version, Hercules dies and he goes to the underworld. So Megra still tries to save Hercules, but Megra would probably know. It actually teams up with Hera, because Hera finds her, and they kind of agree that they kind of need to work together to save Hercules, and they get Danny DeVito's character, kind of like in the movie, just less rushed, maybe play out the emotion a little bit longer, and they go to the underworld, and they find Hercules. They kind of like try to sneak him out, because what's a big part of the Legend of Hercules? Hercules wrestling Cerberus. So instead of the fight with the giant stupid Cyclops, they come face to face with Cerberus at the River Styx. At first, they try to like sneak by him, and it's like this nice bit of tension where like they barely get by. But when they leave, they try to sneak by, but something goes wrong and somebody makes some noise, and Cerberus starts the fight. Hercules tries to hold off as long as he can, but Megara jumps in front of before he finally bites the dust and sacrifices herself. Instead of her dying by accident, she knowingly sacrifices herself because she knows that will break the agreement. And at just the right moment, just when Hercules thinks he lost, he gains his powers back. And he wrestles the dog into submission and gets the dog to be basically just... I don't want to say submissive because that sounds wrong, but that would explain why he's riding in with Cerberus at the end of the movie. Because he already tamed...
a good boy.
Yeah, he already made him a good boy. But that would be so much more interesting than like the random Cyclops fight, because that all happens in 2 minutes.
The only maybe issue with that, Ian,
yes, go on.
and this might be a non-issue, but so he already fights that dragon creature with the reproducing heads, and it ends up being this like 20-head creature. I don't know if you're trying to up the ante as the film goes on, would Cerberus seem like a bigger threat than that was? I mean, I don't know if the Cyclops really seemed like that big of a threat, but
well, the
you already had like a multi-head creature earlier on.
That's true. But the thing with Cerberus, the thing in this scene, he doesn't have any weapons. He has to wrestle him like he does in the Greek myth, so he doesn't have any weapons to work with. And secondly...
And he doesn't have his powers, right? Still?
Exactly, and he gains the powers at the last minute, and that's when he can take on Cerberus.
It's also funny, because if you actually look at the Greek myth, like the Hydra, the way he defeated that was he cut all of the heads off and burned them, and then he buried the stump of the last one after he burned it. So it's like...
Well, they had to be more kid-friendly, which I get it.
No, I get that. Yeah, I'm just kind of being funny at this point.
Ian, would you want this to be like a gritty live-action reboot? Like 20 other ones?
No,
I never saw the Dwayne The Rock Johnson one. Is it good?
No.
Is it even?
It's directed by Brett Ratner, so no.
Okay.
Oh my god. I wouldn't want it to be a gritty live-action reboot, but maybe like a darker animated movie. You know, kind of how like Del Toro is trying his hand at like a darker like Pinocchio movie. Maybe something like
stop
along
motion
those lines.
Animation?
But
like stop motion or 3D?
I was thinking maybe in the style of like Arcane or something along those lines.
Interesting.
Could be real, or like, Primal. The animation style
like,
Primal would be perfect for this.
That's like 2.5D for Arcane, I think they call it.
Yeah,
where it is 3D, but it's given like a very 2D kind of sheen.
Mm-hmm.
I could see that.
Yeah, like
I would be kind of cool if you got the team who did that Cyberpunk show on Netflix.
Oh god, yeah, the team behind like Kill la Kill and stuff like that.
Oh, that shit is amazing. And I was like, those guys could handle something like a God of War kind of Hercules epic.
Those, by the way, Cyberpunk Edge Runners, it's fantastic. It's one of the only 10 out of 10s I gave this year. Holy shit, what a show. Strongly
it's fantastic. I'm about halfway through it, and it is amazing.
Yeah, strap in.
I haven't seen any yet, but I'm gonna get caught up soon.
Don't worry, we won't spoil anything.
Well, with Hercules, what else did you have to say, Ian? I'm legitimately curious.
Well, I'll speed run through like my last few changes. First off,
yes,
I'm not a big fan of the music in this movie, except for Zero to Hero. So here's a quick idea I had: is that instead of being musicians, the muses are playwrights, because what is Greek history known most for? One is one of their greatest contributions to the arts, theater. So having them play out theater, and you could kind of like make kind of like the beginning of Zootopia. It can make jokes about like how cheap the play is and how they're using like these really overdramatic sound effects and dumb cheap effects. But halfway through, play Zero to Hero because that's the commercial break, and they just break into song, and it's still largely the same scene. How funny would that be? And you could cut to like the audience just looking in confusion before like doing a thunderous applause, and then they go back to the play like nothing happened. But that is a commercial break because it's also a literal commercial break for Hercules himself, halfway through the movie.
I will say this. So the Muses, I mean, there is some good songs in there besides Zero to Hero.
Zero to Hero is like the only memorable one to me, and especially the songs the characters sing. They're textbook. This didn't need to be a song. The characters are just saying that to pad out the runtime songs. Like, I hate the songs the actual characters song. Same.
What is it? I won't say I'm in love. Come on, man.
It's better sung than the other two songs.
It was a good song, honestly.
Some kind of monster. That's a great song.
It's fine.
I mean, I think you got to keep that one. And also, I mean, it's worth mentioning. I mean, up until 1997, which is when this film came out, I think, the Muses were actually the first black characters to be given a narrative speaking role, where they had names in a Disney movie.
That's pretty
1997. Cool. That seems like it took too long. Holy crap.
Way too long. Oh my god. Yeah, let's not get into that.
No. I'm just saying, I mean, I guess they did technically have Eddie Murphy as Mushu, but that's not quite the same. Yeah.
That's a different story.
Anyway,
I guess I'll close off my thoughts. Great animation, great voice cast, some funny jokes, good memes. But I think there's just so much wrong with the story, and especially the characterization. And a few changes to the story really could have fixed that. But like you said, it really does feel like this movie was just a stopgap to something they're much more passionate about. While I can admire like the technical aspects, I really think this film is flawed on a story level. Like, it's way too rushed. There's a lot of weird conveniences. The tone is all over the place. And there's no real arcs outside of Megra, which is such a disappointment because the Legend of Hercules or Heracles can be so much more. There's so much potential just waiting to be ripped out.
This reminds me of when we reviewed Christine, and we were talking about the fact that like John Carpenter had already made his passion project and it failed at the box office. And so he had to kind of make this as like a recoup some of the money that he lost. You remember that we talked about with Christine?
Absolutely.
This is like the inverse of that, where it's like I have to do the soulless corporate, just kind of like do this thing to recoup my money so that I can go make the thing I'm most passionate about. I don't know. I mean, it's goofy, it's silly, it's way over ambitious, and then it just kind of becomes a little bland. I don't know. It's one of those that's just like,
it's fine.
It's fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I guess my main complaint is that a kind of narrative I'm passionate about should be more than just fine. But what would you guys rate it out of 10?
It's a difference between fine wine and wine fine.
Yeah.
Wow.
I'm giving this one a 5 out of 10. Some people think that's too harsh, but if I wasn't a Greek mythology fan, 6.9. But as it is, nah, sorry, man. This story deserves better. It's a 5.
I consider myself. Go ahead.
You're getting really comfy on that fence there, aren't you?
Very comfy. Glad you warmed up for me.
I also consider myself somewhat of a pretty big fan of Greek myth. I've always found it fascinating, and I agree with you that there are definitely changes that could have been made here. I don't know. I want to give them a little bit of slack because, I don't know. It's just it's like there. I see the potential here. I see what they were going for. It's ambitious, but it just didn't quite. It's undercooked.
Yes, very.
I'm gonna give this a 6 out of 10.
Devon?
6.9.
Nice. There you go.
Very nice. Had to give one 6.9 tonight. Oh my goodness. This next movie. Holy shit. Stephen, take away law-abiding citizen. Oh man. Oh man. Take her away.
My choice for the night, law-abiding citizen. This film was released in 2009. It is a vigilante action thriller film directed by Felix Gary Gray, who also directed Straight Outta Compton, The Negotiator, The Italian Job, a few pretty good films. And then he directed this, and it is written by Kurt Wimmer. Kurt Wimmer is the writer of films like Equilibrium and a few decent films, and he also made this, and he also wrote the Total Recall reboot.
Nice.
What is this film about? Well, that's about Gerard Butler, who plays an ex CIA government kind of guy whose family is suddenly targeted in a random attack, and he is wrongly done by the justice system, and he's gonna, behind bars, he's gonna manipulate things to make a statement on the law and how it failed him. And Jamie Foxx is a young hotshot DA who is standing in his way. Let's just go ahead and get into this. This film is a mess. It's kind of a clusterfuck.
This film thinks it's a lot smarter than it is.
Yes. Holy shit. You know what I was thinking the entire time? I was thinking, this feels like a Neil Breen movie with a budget. This 100% feels like a Neil Breen.
I wouldn't go that far.
I would.
Wink, wink, nudge,
nudge.
Would.
I have resigned today as president of the bank.
That's all it was missing, because it has the morally ambiguous characters that we're supposed to like for some reason. There's constant talks about oh man, the system is corrupt, law is corrupt, man, justice is corrupt, man. Characters just say the message of the movie, and it's also just as ridiculous and weird while also taking itself way too seriously. I don't know. It gave me very heavy Neil Breen vibes. This film is a piece of shit, but I loved every minute of it. It was hilarious.
Yeah.
No, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed it for what it was. As stupid as it was, I really enjoyed it.
Okay. I did enjoy it.
Well, okay. So, there's a couple of things. I view this film almost as a homage of sorts to really dumb B movies. You almost get the sense that this is the cheesiest modern day version of Charles Bronson and Death Wish. And I mean, here's the problem with that though, because even the more cheesy and exploitive films that came out around that time, with your Death Wish or I mean, I'm not going to go through the list, but you've seen them. I mean, Tarantino has, made a career out of parodying them and homaging them and all this. Those films did a pretty good job setting up character motivation. And you can say what you want, and I will agree with you that a lot of them are dumb, and a lot of them are cheesy, and a lot of them are stupid, but they actually do something that's kind of unheard of, where they introduce the family before they're unceremoniously murdered. Because as is, this film opens up and it's just the guy sitting at home with his family, and then these two criminals break in the door, and it's like, what the fuck? You don't really even have a chance to react before we're just thrust into this story. And that is like, that's a major mistake here, because we need to care about these people. Trying to turn the family into some like MacGuffin plot device. Absolutely. It doesn't work.
Just mincemeat right away, and you're supposed to
and
maybe you're thrown into the scene just long enough that you kind of put your guard down a little bit, and then you forget what kind of movie you're watching. But I agree that I think you should have spent more time with them to really make it, to really have it kind of an impact. Yeah.
No, and if you're gonna do that, I mean, I know it's kind of a trope, but like, you know, if you had flashbacks, or you know, you had like
just give us
something where he like saw the ghost of his family, or you know, maybe he went to the graveyard or something, because it happens so quick and then it's never mentioned again, which I feel like is a major mistake.
Yeah, it makes no sense.
The other
Here's another idea. How about you don't know what happened to him? You just think that this guy's a lunatic and he's evil. But then you learn at some point later on that this is what happened to him, and then you start to empathize with him a little bit after he's done some terrible shit, kind of thing.
Yeah, no, and I mean, that's the other thing with movies like this. You're trying to get into the mind of a psychopath. That's what the filmmakers are trying to do. They're trying to make you question your own morals in such a way that it's like you're watching this and you're like, well, you know, if I was in that situation, how would I react? You know, it's that sort of like primal reaction. And I feel like
I will say there's. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
So, I have a small story about how I came across this film. I remember it was recommended to me by this one guy who was a bit older than I was, and he was kind of a car crash victim. But he was like, "You should watch this film. It's really good." Like I don't think he quite said this, but it seemed like he was praising the bad guy in it. Like he's like a real anti-hero kind of thing. And then I remember not too long ago, my uncle was like talking about it and says, you know, what this guy did is awful, but he had a good point, kind of thing. So I feel like a lot of like, you know, a lot of guys kind of unironically praise the guy, even though he was legally wrong.
And I mean, that's fine. We've seen that done in films before. I'm just saying, I think this film could have been better if it actually did that in an interesting way.
Actually,
I mean, you look at something like you know, Brawl in Cell Block 99, and I know Ian had his problems with that film.
It's still a good
movie. When we reviewed it,
it's a much better movie.
It's a way better.
It's a much better movie, and it's actually exploring these kind of ideas, and I think it accomplishes what this film was trying to do.
Way better.
Yeah. And so I feel like that's like the number one problem is like, I need more setup. I need more background for the payoff to work.
Absolutely.
The other thing is that bugs me. It's like, we talked about tonal whiplash with the last film. Holy crap.
Oh, it's so bad here. Like, it'll literally go from like a serious scene of trying to find like a missing person, then it'll cut to prisoners going like, "Oh, why can't I have that steak?" Oh, it's like a gag.
Well,
I'm like, why is this here?
No, it's also, I mean, there's that whole sequence where like the judge opens her phone and it's a poem in the phone. That was so cheesy.
So stupid.
That made me laugh out loud. Like, what the fuck?
Oh,
I found myself laughing at it because it's so dumb.
But it's out of nowhere, so it's clever. It's smart because it's out of nowhere.
I found that hysterical.
Oh, I did too.
This is probably my biggest problem with the film. The twist is the worst.
Oh!
And for the majority of my rewrite, I'm going to be like talking about this because
God, please.
The idea is that he actually wanted to be in solitary confinement because the whole movie they're talking about like, oh, does he have an accomplice? Like, so you find out that he doesn't have an accomplice, but he has all of these like tunnels under the city, and he's just been going out and then like returning to the cell
and impersonating like as a custodian in the government building
and it's
or something.
so dumb.
And
Yeah.
and it's like I half watched this film and I was exhausted and I fell asleep after the car exploded. So I rewatched. I came back from work. I'm like, okay, I got to rewatch the last hour of the movie and then Hercules later. And I rewatched like the last half of the movie, and it felt like a different movie because I didn't like. Wait, does this make sense? Does this connect? Like I thought I was just disconnected, but no, that I don't think that twist actually even works.
Yeah, but here's the thing: why couldn't he just have an accomplice? That's the easy way to change that. Just give him an accomplice.
So this is my rewrite. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Because first of all, you establish the family. If that's through flashbacks, if that's through, like, I don't know, like, if that's just more time in the beginning before they're murdered, like, I need a reason to care about these people. So that's number one. The part two of my rewrite is that he absolutely has an accomplice. In fact,
who's the
accomplice? Might have like a couple of accomplices. And, because they make a point, they do that thing where the one guy is like spouting off the exposition of like, ooh, it's almost like John Wick.
That's full Neil Breen. It's just like he's the best. He's so good. He's so awesome.
No. And that's fine.
It's a particular set of skills that he's acquired over.
Yeah, that is full Neil Breen. Every Neil Breen has that moment when they're kissing that character's ass.
Fine. No, and that's fine. You can keep that. But surely to God, if he's the best, he would probably have accomplices. I mean, he would have an entire network of people.
Yeah.
And so you keep everything the same. But up until the very end, where it's like, oh, by the way, he was actually just doing this all himself. No. He's got accomplices. He's got eyes on the outside. Jamie Foxx walks into the prison cell, and they have like a similar exchange, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, because Jamie Foxx is like, I don't make deals with murderers anymore, and Gerard Butler is like, oh, I guess I finally taught you the lesson I was going for.
Well done.
So here's what you do: you just have him be like, but there's one more lesson in the curriculum. And then you cut to there's like a guy in a sniper's nest, or he's got like a remote control from a van somewhere, and he blows up Jamie Foxx's house with the daughter and the mom inside, and you just kill them, and then you have like Jamie Foxx snap, and he's gonna like strangle the shit out of Gerard Butler. And the other guards
smile.
And no, well, yeah, of course. But then all the guards are going to be like pulling him off, like, get it together. They're slapping him. And then it's like he finds out what happened. And then from then on, it's like, you have him just beat Gerard Butler to death. But the end of the movie is that he's standing trial for the death of Clyde Shelton, or he's going to be in the room for the trial of one of these accomplices, and there's going to be like one rookie hotshot DA who's going to like tell him there's nothing we can do, like, you're not going to win, we this Gerard Butler guy covered his tracks so well, we're just going to make a deal. And you end on that because that way Jamie Foxx has actually learned a lesson. And it may be the most nihilistic, dark, depressing, lesson possible. But as is, the problem is that Jamie Foxx winning in the end of this feels completely unearned.
Defeats the purpose.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
No, you need to make it so that it's like Gerard Butler wins, but it's like at what cost? And the ending is that the cycle is going to keep repeating itself. Like, that would make this a way better movie.
Oh, 100%. And that would tie in, like, the theme of it, like him kind of becoming the thing he sort of destroys, sort of thing, or him kind of realizing the fate that he gave to the other person. It feels like, it feels more allegorical that way.
No, and it almost plays into, like, the ending of Sicario, where there's like the son of the cartel boss. You just do that. Like, have some rookie hotshot DA who, like, starts explaining to him the same spiel. And that, to me, I think would make a pretty damn good movie. It would still be silly. It would still be over the top. It would still be exploitation and cheese. But it would at least have more of a purpose.
Here's my question. I was thinking the blonde girl, I forget Sam Rockwell's wife, I forget the actress's name, but he's a friend with Jamie Foxx. I thought she was going to be the accomplice. Did you guys get that vibe at all?
No, I actually, my impression was that she and Jamie Foxx were having an affair.
Ooh.
That was where I thought they were going with it.
Maybe. But here's the thing. She keeps contacting the friend that conveniently has information on Shelton. What better way to get information on Shelton than with Shelton himself? Oh, I keep contacting a friend. I keep contacting a friend. But they never go anywhere with that. It's just the friend is just some random guy. We never know who the friend is. We never know anything about him. He's just some random guy. It's like, I feel like that was supposed to pay off somehow. This story really reeks of... It was written during the writer's strike. I feel like we need to establish that. And this story really reeks of... our writer walked out and we have like 2 days to start filming. We gotta make some shit up in the second half.
That's exactly what it feels like. That feels
really
like
feels
kind of really
and there was even a rumor, that Jamie Foxx somehow screwed up the production because he wanted to be the good guy, and then that's almost been like disproven because this script itself went through, like, I don't know, 15 drafts or something, and this was like the best ending that they could come up with.
What? That's a load of shit. I don't believe that.
Well, it's like we want a good ending. We don't want Jamie Foxx's family to die or anything. He made it to her recital. Isn't that sweet?
Oh my, that is the dumbest thriller trope ever.
Work.
I hate that. Yeah, it doesn't work,
well,
and it's also so stupid.
Okay. I saw, so when I first watched the movie and I fell asleep in like the second half, I just regained consciousness like at that last shot of him at the recital, and there was like a look that he gave her where he finally made it, but he also felt a little taken aback, and the way my sleep deprived brain determined that, it says, oh, maybe he won after all, but at what cost? And maybe like something is hitting him. I mean, no, that doesn't actually happen in the movie, but what if you had the exact same ending where they defeated Gerard Butler somehow, and oh, hi, welcome back, Stephen. But so let's say the same ending happens, but maybe Jamie Foxx realizes all too late that the system he does uphold is corrupt. And there is this like realization that he has as he's like sitting there that this is an unearned victory after all. So maybe there could be an element to that, but the movie doesn't actually have that. That was just my brain kind of making sense of the ending. When I missed a whole chunk of it.
I posted, there's a whole Reddit post about this, and they're talking about how the scripts were just widely varied. There were so many drafts. One version actually had the Jamie Foxx character going full bad guy and doing kind of what I was describing. Another version had Clyde Shelton finding Nick's family at the safe house and threatened to kill them with a bomb strapped to his chest. There was at least one version of this film where Nick wound up being the good guy, but his final line was "Vaya con Dios, fuckhead," as he kills
that would be
Clyde.
better.
Like, I don't know, man. I think what disappoints me the most is, like, there is potential here. I see it. Like, if you're telling me the idea is, because in a way, what they're doing is it's almost like they're merging, like
Saw with Death Wish.
Well, kind of. But what I'm going to say is, it's like with Seven, Jamie Foxx is kind of like Brad Pitt. And then Gerard Butler is kind of like Morgan Freeman and Kevin Spacey together. It's like he's an older lawman who's talking from a position of past experience and authority, but he's also trying to teach this guy this like screwed up moral lesson. And if that's the pitch, and you're combining these elements of like Saw and Death Wish and all of this stuff, like, I could see that working. I think there's something here.
So Jamie Foxx, he's a prosecutor, right? Like, I couldn't figure out, is this guy a detective or is he a lawyer? I guess prosecutor, like
lawyer. Yeah.
I didn't get how his role worked, because it's like, how is he in the in the courtroom, but also interrogating him and also investigating the crime? Like, those feel like three different jobs.
Prosecution lawyers do that. I'm pretty sure.
Okay, prosecution lawyers do that. Okay.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I just saw Better Call Saul, so I maybe I'm spoiled on actually good legal writing.
Yeah.
But it just made this seem sus.
Steven, I gotta talk about this real quick. If you're gonna have a movie that criticizes the law, maybe you should understand how the law actually works. Because there are so many points in this movie where I'm like, that's not how the law works. That won't happen. Like, the biggest one to me is when Shelton is kind of in court for the first time, and he like wants to go out on bail, and Jamie Foxx says, "Oh no, he signed a confession. He confessed." And she's like, is he confessing? And he's like, "No." And she's like, "Well, then I guess I gotta let him go." I'm like, no. When someone agrees to write a confession, you hold them in contempt because you were breaking the law, because you agreed with a lawyer that you signed a confession. Until the confession is legally changed behind the scenes, they can hold you in contempt. Why don't they hold him in contempt?
I want that guy, the Legal Eagle, on YouTube.
Oh, he would tear this movie to fucking shreds.
Because it is... That's another thing that I noticed, too, where it's like, at some point, the police involved in this film, they're just not going to put up with his, like, games. Like, there's so much suspension of disbelief that, if they found out that he had this, like, complex underground system in the solitary confinement cell, why wouldn't you just move him to another prison?
Yeah. Like, here's the thing. There's so many issues happening in prison. Oh, here's another big thing. Where the hell is protective custody? Where is protective custody at any point in this movie? As soon as the tape ended up on the daughter's door, they would be under protective custody. No debate.
Oh, yeah,
they would be under protective custody. The killer knows where you live, and the killer was there because he obviously planted the thing at their front door, because apparently he doesn't have an accomplice, so he must have did it all by himself. And on top of that, like, everybody got threatened at one point, and they're just like, "Alright, go home, everybody, it's fine." I'm like, yeah, in the real world, they would get protective custody because a killer just threatened to kill them at 6 o'clock. What the fuck? If you're gonna lecture the law, show ways law is actually corrupted instead of making up some bullshit.
Well, and it's also, that kind of ties into what I'm saying too, is like, you need something to happen to the Jamie Foxx's character's family, because he has the address. Why wouldn't he, like, act on that?
Yeah, with
he
no
just
protective
wants to
custody.
send a videotape?
Yeah, it's like, oh, they learned
why?
that lesson. Yeah, you gotta affect the kid who can't act. Yeah,
That's so lame. Like,
it's so
just
boring.
literally give him an accomplice. Put the accomplice on like a rooftop. He's gonna snipe the kids. Like, and even if you don't want to kill Jamie Foxx's character, maybe that's the climax of the film. Is like Jamie Foxx trying to race against the clock to get home, and it's like, the guy's up there and he's like setting up, and you create this tension.
No, better yet,
maybe it's
he has to choose between letting Shelton go or saving his family.
Or maybe some guy shows up in like a work uniform, and it's like they're gonna let him in because it's something like, oh, the pipes are burst or whatever, and it's like, then you have Gerard Butler like taunt Jamie Foxx, and it's like, yeah, I've got someone coming over to fix your leak at the house or something. Like, and it would be stupid, but it would
the
at least
movie's
have
already
some
stupid.
payoff.
Yeah, exactly.
No, it would be stupid in a forgivable kind of way.
Yeah.
And this film is just stupid.
Well, what would you rate it out of 10?
I'm glad we have this podcast because I needed to vent this, and I actually
that's fine. I vented about Hercules, so it's all good.
Oh man, I had prepared to give this a higher score, but now, man, I'm thinking the best I could do is like a 4 out of 10.
Damn. Oof. I'm giving this a 3.4. It's stupid, terrible, on the nose, but absolutely hilarious, and there's some good practical effects and acting here and there, but holy crap, is the story so incompetent on so many levels. I refuse to believe it went through so many drafts, and I am giving them the benefit of the doubt by believing that, because otherwise, what a mess.
It is the wasted potential for me. I feel like there was something here, and it is just completely squandered, and I feel
it's
like...
It's overwritten. Like, it just feels like it's trying to be clever when it should have just been something so much more simple.
Gerard Butler and Jamie Foxx both deserve better.
Agreed.
Oh, yeah. But no, like, the material just didn't seem like it was up to snuff. It was definitely trying to be a lot more wink, wink, nudge, nudge, clever than it was. Like, oh, I didn't incriminate myself because technically I just said this. If you were listening to what I just said, like, yeah,
it does. No, it does the whole like. It's like, well, theoretically and hypothetically.
Oh boy.
Oh yeah. I actually, it was like that one whole condition you were making. It says, why don't they move into another prison? It made me think of that Ben Shapiro clip where he says, if your houses are underwater, why don't you just sell your houses? Like, who would you fucking sell them to? Aquaman.
Well, no, I mean, seriously, come on, man.
It's true. What would you give it, Devon?
But no, like, 3.4.
Yay! Half of a nice score, so it adds up to a 6.9.
It was it was about on par with what I expected it to be. Given who was recommending the film to me and giving it high praise, I'm like, yeah, I can see why you really like this movie.
Well, I was expecting it to be really boring. I thought it'd be like a really dull.
No, I had a fun time, honestly, for just enjoyment. It is like a 6.9 just for enjoyment, but it's stupid and it's hilariously stupid.
It's so
with how it tries to be so self-serious. It almost parodies itself. There was one scene that was genuinely kind of terrifying. Mm-hmm. It was the car bombs. I thought that was genuinely terrifying, and also like the unarmed or the remote gun on the.
That was so stupid.
I mean, it's stupid. It's incredibly stupid. Like, how the fuck did they not see that?
How does it have an EMP that destroys, that deactivates gas-powered cars?
Yeah, no, it's dumb. But just the idea of having an unmanned weapon like that is kind of terrifying.
All right.
But how and why it shows up is fucking stupid. So
it's gonna be fucking.
This movie yeah. There is an element of this movie that reminded me of a script I wrote, which makes me think I really gotta rewrite it. Not, I don't think it was as dumb, but Yeah, that's
Well,
subject to
It's
I
change.
probably
feel
better.
like I feel like if this movie wanted to be this dumb, it should have embraced that. Like if it,
Yeah.
even if it just
100%.
went like the Boondock Saints route, I would have been more forgiving of it. But
It takes
it is
itself too
Fair.
completely
seriously.
deadpan serious,
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
and it
So
needs to
speech.
either be better or it needs to like
Dumber.
I
It
don't
needs to be
know.
better. It needs to be more entertainingly stupid. Speaking of entertainingly stupid, um,
Good
we,
segue.
we we have to get to our last film tonight because we're running out of time. Bohemian Rhapsody. Rhapsody. I was trying to roll my R there. Um, Man. So before we get into this one, I feel like I'd have to establish a lukewarm defense before we let the dogs out onto this one. So, Bohemian Rhapsody is a 2018 biographical film of the band Queen, showing the legacy of their infamous fallen singer Freddie Mercury. And I need to say that when this movie was coming out, I was really hyped up for it because I was a huge Queen fan. I remember just going on like a whole Queen binge when I was younger and really getting into their music. It was like them and a bunch of other rock bands I was all getting into at the same time. But I remember particularly just kind of reading up on their history or getting an idea of their like chronology. So I felt like I was pretty well read up on their stuff going into this. And man, I was just hit with all kinds of emotions watching it. In some scenes I was elated, in other scenes I was just scratching my head going, "What the actual fuck? This didn't happen." Um, but I do have to say that this film is coming from the surviving members of the band, and they were the ones that knew Freddie best. Freddie isn't alive to really defend himself or to really say what his experiences were. So I do think that we have to give some credit where credit is due, and in some cases, you kind of have to give them the benefit of the doubt that they were trying to preserve his legacy in the way that they saw fit. That said, I think this film is an absolute travesty in that regard. Um, and my whole idea for this, I had a whole spiel rehearsed, which is completely failing me at the moment because I'm just like scratching my head trying to think about it. The more I think about it, the more my brain hurts thinking about this movie.
You
I
can
had
do
this
it.
whole thing planned, but I remember writing 2 years ago a review, uh, almost about 600 words. Not quite as long as, actually, it wasn't quite as long as Steven's ended up being, but I read his, and then I showed you mine, and then I read yours, um,
Yeah, which is
which
fair. Yeah.
yeah, it's like we are playing doctor with each other's reviews. But no, I wrote this whole review where I'm almost immediately I knew that, I know going into this that Sacha Baron Cohen was originally penned for the role, and I thought that that would have been amazing. And there was this great little interview clip where he's talking about the early production plans and how Sacha Baron Cohen was more than willing to go full out debauchery mode in terms of showing, the stuff that Freddie was up to. But the members of the band, they had a very different idea for this film. And originally they had planned for Freddie to die halfway through it, which
What?
and then the rest of the film should be about them kind of recovering from that.
Oh.
So is this film really about, the fallen member of their band, or is it really more about them? So that to me speaks a lot about what their intent going into this was. And I felt like that was a little lopsided. They did try to compromise where Freddy doesn't actually die in the course of the film, but they completely changed the timeline where they found out somehow that he had AIDS before they did the Live Aid concert, which is not what happened at all. Um, and there's a lot of other things that are just so wrong with this film, where they abide by basic biopic tropes, and they just completely, change up the timeline instead of, be a little more honest and forthcoming with what actually happened. And I do feel like films like this, they don't necessarily have to be entirely true, uh, you know, factual to what happened, but they should be true to like the spirit of it. I think
Yeah.
um, and that's where I think this film kind of fails for me. And this is what I'm really wanting to get to the core of with my concept. I wouldn't remake this film exactly, because I feel like the members of the bands, uh, they have earned the right to kind of create whatever legacy film they want for themselves. That said, with my idea, I want to take their world, the year that they construct themselves and turn it inside out and float around in ecstasy, which is from the lyrics "Don't Stop Me Now." That's the song that ends this film in the end credits, and that is how I want to start off my film, is with the song "Don't Stop Me Now." And it would start off with a shot of like behind the scenes, like roll the film from the music video of shooting it. Like you'd see kind of like the clapper kind of starting off the roll, and you see Freddie kind of mentally preparing himself, played by Sacha Baron Cohen. And then you just see him starting to sing the song. And then on cut with the beat, as the song picks up, you just see him having sex with midgets, doing lines of coke backstage, all the shit that they were afraid to show in the movie. I'm gonna have in a montage scene starting off this film to the beat of "Don't Stop Me Now," which I think would perfectly juxtapose the lyrics.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it's supposed to be. I think it's supposed to be Little Person technically, but
okay, sorry. Technicality, but I really want to showcase. So I wouldn't remake Bohemian Rhapsody. Actually, this is the other thing I forgot to mention. So I'm going to draw a comparison here. There's another band that you may know of called Led Zeppelin. And off the bat, what is Led Zeppelin's most famous song?
Stairway to Heaven.
Stairway to Heaven.
Yeah, Stairway to Heaven, and that's what their fans would say is their most popular song, and it's a fan favorite. And it's kind of an epic 7-minute, 8-minute song, right?
Yeah.
And people would say this about Bohemian Rhapsody. This is obviously like the song that kind of broke the mold for them and brought them to superstardom. However, if you'd ask Led Zeppelin what their biggest musical accomplishment was, they would say it was Kashmir, which is a different song that kind of has this Middle Eastern vibe to it. And that's a really great song. Some people have said that the other masterpiece that Queen has written is this little song called Innuendo, which is the song that has like quite a few musical movements. I think I lifted this idea from Polyphia, this music analyst channel. But that is the direction that I want to take with my film. I want to create the complete inverse of Bohemian Rhapsody, and I want to create Innuendo, which basically all takes place in Freddie's head, and it's sort of this fever dream, dream logic, kind of him riding the high of just being a rock star, and him kind of giving into his impulses and dealing with success, maybe to compensate for some, emotional needs that he has that are unmet, or kind of. I really want to get into the mind of Freddie and really want to get to the heart and soul of what he's about, and I want to do it in this kind of Gaspar Noé, dream logic, pseudo documentary style. It'd be a little experimental, but I think that montage sequence, you get these kind of like bleeding kind of colors, kind of like those light leak shots you see in the beginning of Taxi Driver, where you have these kind of like, lights just that kind of like, bleed. And this would be kind of like his hazy recollection of all the parties he's had. And then the first scene after that montage sequence would be kind of waking up after a really rauncous party and just seeing all the mess that was left by his guests. Him kind of picking himself up and realize and trying to figure out how we got to this moment. So that's my initial idea of what I want to do with this film.
I think really leaning into this kind of like surrealism and almost by way of like Gaspar Noé or David Lynch comes to mind with this kind of like Technicolor neon sort of. I was actually gonna talk about that just in the chat. There's a movie that came out recently called Moon Age Daydream. That was about the life of David Bowie.
Yeah, I remember seeing the trailer for this.
Apparently, it's very like experimental and full of like surrealist imagery, and it is like a mix of like getting into a state of mind along with like actual documentary footage.
But you know what? I feel like it doesn't even have to be a documentary, but like I feel like something that really kind of toys with your expectations and the spectacle and the sort of surrealist dream logic. I feel like that would be an incredible film.
That sounds really
I feel like
cool.
that could possibly be like an 8 or 9 out of 10 just on just like hearing that. This film was not that.
No, not at all. Which is this is why I want to do something completely utterly different. I want this to be low budget, rough around the edges, shot on 16mm, or maybe made to look that way for the era.
Well,
but I really want it to be more of a
one thing that I thought about too with what you were describing. We were talking to a friend of the show, Daryl Ailes, the other day, and he was talking about how that, like, Blonde, this new movie that came out about Marilyn Monroe, it kind of like weaves in and out of aspect ratio and color and black and white, and kind of like it almost follows that same kind of dream logic. Now, I myself have not had a chance to see the film yet, but I think if you were going to do something like that, obviously I know Blonde is kind of like the center of some controversy right now, but just that style of like weaving in and out of maybe fantasy and reality, I think that would be very befitting of someone like Freddie Mercury and the sort of theatricality of his life and career. And I personally, I think that's it's one of the best ideas I've heard tonight, actually.
Oh, thank you, man.
Way better than my
this
pitch.
was like, and this was something that I had thought of almost immediately after seeing the film. Like, I felt so immediately compelled to write something, and I am kind of tapering back a little bit, so I don't want to lean full into the debauchery just for the sake of it. I just want to acknowledge it happens, but also get to the core of why did he feel this need, like he was kind of going up against societal expectations. And I do like that in the original film it does highlight the relationship he had with what's her name? I wish I could remember her name. I wish the movie made it that important.
Mary?
But yeah,
well,
that one.
Mary. I'm gonna jump out here, because while that may have been the best idea I've heard tonight, this was probably the worst film I watched out of the three.
I agree.
Oh yeah.
Wholeheartedly.
I actually started. I did not like the movie when I first saw it. I thought the Live 8 sequence was incredible, and the rest was garbage.
Oh yeah.
Whoever wrote the studio scenes should be shot and pissed on, as my uncle would say. But no, like, that is not how that works. I mean, there were moments that were kind of neat. Like, they had the right machines, but the most clear-cut example of it just being fucking wrong is Freddie is telling Roger to sing higher. No, higher. No, higher. And like, that is like meant to be funny, but that is not a note that you would give to like another musician. It's a very specific note you're trying to go for, and he doesn't even sing it any higher. He just gives it more like inflection or more exaggeration for comedic effect. And it's like, that's not how this fucking works. Like, you're wasting tape, and just decide if it's a C or an F sharp or whatever. Like, you get very specific. You don't tell them to just sing higher. That's a very vague thing, and that wastes everyone's time.
But Devon, don't you make a song by going like by having the band members be in an argument, and then a guy does it like a cool instrument number, and they're like, wait a minute, let's add some music to that. Wow, that sounds really good. Let's add some lyrics. That's every single band practice in this movie.
I mean, that kind of stuff happens, but it feels very monotonous, and not every song starts off that way.
And rushed.
Like, you just start off with like one little idea, and then another guy kind of picks it up, and maybe they push back on a little bit. But it's not always. It's not. They dramatize so much of this.
But they missed
like
the
way they came up with "We Will Rock You." That is not how they came up with that.
Yeah, that was horseshit. It was just like, I want to get the audience like into the groove. I'm just like, that just sounds like an old man trying to figure out how music works. Like,
and that might have been the original intent, but that whole setup is not how they wrote that song.
I believe you wholeheartedly.
Here's the thing, and I know Ian wants a chance to shit on this film too, but here's my thing. This is one thing that I thought was weird, okay? Because Freddie Mercury, his sexuality was never like confirmed. I mean, there's rumors that he dated and slept with men and women. Okay, I mean, we could.
I think everyone has a consensus that he was bi.
It's a fair consensus.
The bisexual, at the very least, there is some kind of rumors about, oh, he was gay, or I don't know. But here's the thing: for a movie that's celebrating the life of like one of the most queer, I guess you could say, in today's climate, musical icons, someone who is like this sort of almost titan of famous people that are on this sexuality spectrum. You would almost feel like the film wouldn't go out of its way to portray everything gay in the movie as like a horror movie. It is so bizarre how this film is constantly shaming him and almost punishing him for being gay.
Absolutely.
Which is so weird. It's so bizarre for a movie about Freddie Mercury. Why does it spend so much time on this like one negative sort of toxic relationship he had with a man?
Why is the truck driver look like something out of a horror movie? Why? And
why do we have all these sequences of him like longing for this like heterosexual relationship?
Oh
and
God, yeah. And even the heterosexual relationship was like, oh wow, they get along so well. They're so cute together. They never have any arguments. They're really nice. But the gay relationship is very abusive, and he's manipulative. It makes him do awful things.
He might have felt conflicted about it in some small way, but the film really kind of layers that on and really makes it like this is like a big moral dilemma of his, where I think he, I think he was pretty confident in himself after a while what he was comfortable doing.
Well, it comes across like AIDS is somehow a punishment, and that is
really insulting,
disgusting message.
It's not like a punishment. It's nobody knew what AIDS was at the time. Nobody thought there were a condom back then. That's why we had 80s slasher movies killing horny people,
we talked about this with Taxi Driver. There's that whole sequence where like, because we're seeing it through the eyes of Travis Bickle, his interactions with people of color or women are framed in such a way that it's like a horror movie. And it kind of works because we're not actually endorsing this line of thinking, but we're seeing it through the eyes of a very violent, bigoted person. Whereas this film, there's like a scene where there's like 15 gay guys that show up in leather gear to Freddie Mercury's house, and it's played almost the same way as the way Travis would view gay people. It's so distasteful, and it's just so slimy, and I don't understand why this film is so obsessed with portraying his sexuality as a hindrance or a bad thing.
I'll tell you why. Because the surviving band members were heavily involved with the writing process of this movie, and I respect them. They are fantastic musicians. They still are, but you can tell, even just the fact that like even when Freddie is like apologizing to everybody, he apologizes to them. He confesses to them. The other band members never apologize. They never meant they
feels like Rubber Pumpkin. It's like it's like he has that fantasy where the guy's apologizing to him.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is so funny. It's like and the whole attitude that it seems like Brian May, and I know Dr. Barentone didn't want to name him, but Howard Stern knew who he was talking about. It's like they're saying about Freddie in this movie is we love Freddie in spite of the fact he was gay. Not we just love Freddie, period.
In spite of the fact that, he was like a hindrance to us. And here's the problem, and I'm glad you brought this up, where it's like he's apologizing to the other band members. That didn't happen. The whole thing about Freddie going off and doing a solo career and that broke the band off, or like broke them up, that didn't happen.
That was a mutual agreement. Yeah.
No, it was a mutual agreement, but B, by the time Freddie decided to do a solo album, there were at least two other band members, including Brian May, who had already done solo albums.
Yeah, it wasn't like a big argument. And they were just like, yeah, it wasn't a big argument or anything either. It was just like, we gotta do our own things. Yeah, like, okay, cool.
This whole weird fan fiction about Freddie like begging you for forgiveness.
Here's what really pissed me off.
It's something that you did first.
Here's
this is like wish fulfillment for the remaining members of Queen.
Exactly.
This is how we want our fans to think of us. And you know what? I praised the Live Aid sequence before because I thought it was like a near perfect kind of recreation of that event just from what we see in the footage. But there is one thing that has always stuck out to me, and it's just how fake the audience looks.
Oh, it looks like shit.
They are all CGI, and you know it's kind of an impressive effect in and of itself. But the thing is, they look so uniform. Also,
they look so shiny.
Also, kind of over garishly white.
Yeah.
But I feel like that effect that stands out, I see as like a microcosm for the audience that this movie panders to. This uniform, artificial idea of people that just love Queen and they don't want to have their views questioned because they're of a certain generation, perhaps. And I feel like this film panders to this artificial kind of impression of this audience. A real audience would be much more chaotic and all over the place. And if you compare like the actual live footage from the event, you kind of see clusters of people.
Yeah,
you know,
there are people like climbing over each other to try and get in line. You know, like
here's the thing, and I mean, I put this in my review, and you know, it's like, can we just say that? I mean, I don't want to get too political soapboxy here, but can we just say that there's been a lot of almost moral hysteria, like satanic panic level discourse, in terms of like just like culture war sort of nonsense about gay people and like the gay community. And it's like, I don't know, I mean, a lot of it is unfortunate because I think that for the majority of people that are out there, you know, regardless of sex, religion, race, whatever, I think we're all just trying to live our lives, you know. And this film, like, it's so just like it's so gross, and I feel like the fact that this is directed by Bryan Singer, who's this, you know, outed pedophile, just adds insult to injury, you know, because that's something that has like come up over, you know, just like recent discussion of like, oh, you know, these teachers are gay and they're like grooming kids, and it's such bullshit that gets conflated. And it's just, the more I think about this movie, the more angry it makes me. Like, this is the one film that it got a strong reaction out of me, you know. And it's like, because the other two films I could kind of wave my hand off. I could be like, okay, this is a dumb crime movie, this is a dumb Disney movie for kids, but this is just so disrespectful.
Is Freddie Mercury. This is one of the most famous bands of all time, and this is the shit you put out? Like,
well, it's so, I mean, I'm struggling to even find the words here. This film legitimately pissed me off.
There was one change that really pissed me off, and that's when Freddie Mercury admits he had AIDS. That is a load of shit, because when Freddie Mercury admitted he had AIDS, that was arguably what kickstarted AIDS research. That made people finally wake up and realize, oh shit, like, if Freddie fucking Mercury is being affected by AIDS, like, we gotta get to work. It's unfortunate they took that long to do it, but that's an important part of his disease. And it just played off like, oh, he just says it in front of the band, so we have this really
he
dumb
says in the front of band, he keeps it to himself, and it's more about us and the band and how much we forgive ourselves for being assholes. And it's like, they totally could have taken that him being diagnosed with AIDS starts like this movement of them starting AIDS research, and suddenly people care. That would have been so much more powerful. Exactly. And also, not to mention the fact, the Live Aid concert, they didn't know that he had AIDS then, and he didn't even know. And it wasn't until some years later that he he like lets them. It was only like right before he died that they actually like found out, really.
Yeah.
Well, what about the all the scenes that are so like exploitive of him like coughing up blood, and he goes to the doctor's office and there's this guy like
But he
covered in
puts his
sores
hand on. Oh my god, that was so stupid.
it's
Yeah.
so. I mean, it's stupid, but it's so like gross the way that they portray it.
Very exploitive.
And even aside from that, like if we want to like take the band out of it, okay, take the way that they're portraying the gay community out of it, take the way that they're just pissing on the corpse of Freddie Mercury out of it, if that's not bad enough. This has got to be one of the worst screenplays I've ever seen.
God.
Like the writing here, this feels like Dewey Cox
without the irony,
but played serious.
Yeah, there's so many scenes where what they say is just the message of the movie. It's just like there's a scene where I forget what it was, but like there's a scene where they walk out and they're like, "You're gonna be forever known as the artist that refused Queen," and that felt like it was just like audience. Okay, so what's happening here is that this guy is gonna be remembered for not liking Queen because that's what happened in history. You guys got it? All right, good, moving on. There's so much dialogue like that where it's just they say the message instead of exploring it.
Here's another thing that pisses me off about this film. There's a sequence where it's right after that where the guy is talking to him, and it's like the Mike Myers cameo, and it's like,
which is hilarious, by the way.
It's hilarious, but he could not care
in the context of everything else. But yeah,
sure, but he's like,
also he's playing a non-real character.
Of course he is, but it's like, ooh, Bohemian Rhapsody, that sucks. That's nobody's gonna like that.
No one's gonna want to crank that up in their car. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. I was in Wayne's World.
No, and fine, okay. But then they go to the recording booth, or they go to some like radio show, and like Freddie's in with this guy, and so he's gonna play it anyway. And then they pan over into like this booth, where maybe the some other radio show is like recorded or something, and there's like a window into that room, and then on top of that window, it like CGI fades to like the band doing the cover of Bohemian Rhapsody.
So bad.
Which okay, but then it just shows all of the bad reviews for Bohemian Rhapsody.
I thought that was hilarious. I actually.
Well, okay, but wouldn't it make more sense if that was the point that you were trying to make? With what you're doing, like, wouldn't it make more sense if you used like the contemporary reviews? Because the way that you're showing this, it makes it seem like the asshole who didn't like Bohemian Rhapsody was right.
But no,
but
that's not what that was.
You as an audience are supposed to. They're assuming that their audience loves Queen and loves this song unabashedly, and like seeing the negative reviews as a joke, like that's supposed to be funny. Like, oh, haha, they were so wrong about this song. It's amazing because Queen's amazing, and we love everything Queen does because Queen's.
No, but that doesn't make sense. If you had him say Bohemian Rhapsody sucks, and then you had the reviews pop up, and it's like, contemporary Rolling Stone says Bohemian Rhapsody is the best song ever, how many years later, then that
or show like the sales
numbers,
or show like the sales numbers after that.
For sure, yeah,
to get that
would work.
But that would.
But it's like,
we only have 2.5 hours to work with, Stephen. We have no time to flush this out. Oh, like, we have. By the way,
what point are you even making?
It's a dumb joke, and here's the thing. Speaking of which, we haven't even talked about the technical aspects. The montages look so cheap, like stuff I could throw together in Filmora in an afternoon. The editing. Oh my fucking! I know part of that is because the band members wanted like equal screen time for some reason. But holy shit, did you have to edit it like Taken free? It looks so bad. Like they're just sitting around talking. Just give us some decent coverage. Cut like 5 or 6 times at most. Or just do a shot for shot like a normal fucking person. Why do we need 35, 60 shots of them sitting at a table talking to their agent? There was no point to that. It serves no purpose. Why?
Yeah,
Every conversation scene is like that. Every
the
one.
the camera work is so like
Bland.
uninspired. It's just it doesn't have any personality. There's no like it just feels very basic shot reverse shot. It's like
That
there's
is over
nothing
edited,
here.
yeah.
Yeah,
And
Like
it's
the
over
fact the
edited.
fact that it won an Academy Award for Best Editing is a
Oh,
fucking joke.
remember, guys, Bohemian Rhapsody was nominated and won for editing when Suspiria and Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse were not even nominated.
Oh yeah.
Let's let that sit in. Suspiria actually knows how to quick cut and use high coverage. This movie does not. And that Suspiria was lambasted for like the way it quick cuts, but I'd argue that film has a narrative context as to why they're kind of that way, and B, actually uses it to get a visceral reaction of the audience. This movie does it because the band members wanted equal screen time. That's it. Because they didn't jerk themselves off enough of this movie.
It feels like a case of too many cooks in the kitchen and people who aren't filmmakers trying to make decisions on how this film gets made.
Yeah,
and
absolutely. And we haven't even talked about the fact that Bryan Singer was fired halfway through, and Dexter Fletcher, who went on to direct Rocket Man, had to take over as director of this movie last minute for the second half of the movie. And he actually directed the Live Aid sequence, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Oh, really?
Which is probably the one good part of this whole movie.
I don't know if I agree, to be honest. I think it looks like shit. I think the editing's still terrible, and nothing happens. There's no conflict. There's no like character moments. It's just wow, they played a cool show.
It's just a verbatim recreation of the thing.
Exactly.
And technically, it is very impressive. And I did kind of praise it for like the camera they used. It had like a brand new RE License 65, but it does create this effect of an overly polished turd. Like they're going for this picture perfect sunlight in every scene, kind of.
Yeah, it's so flat.
Squeaky clean version of their legacy. And I would have respected them a whole lot more if they were just a little more honest, a little more earnest, and gave us the good, bad, and the ugly, and let us kind of love them as by the end anyway. Because I think if people are a little more honest with the things that they do, especially with like rock and roll bands, I think we can find our own way to appreciate them regardless of that. Like true fans will be forgiving a lot of this stuff. Now that said, you could go the completely opposite direction and really dig into the dirt, like Motley Crue did for their movie, The Dirt, where they kind of showed a lot of the debauchery they did in an almost a glamorous light, and the members of the band themselves were like narrating that film and say, "Oh yeah, what we did was fucked up, but we're
it's
and that's so that's like taking it the other direction, and I think that's a little too far off either. Like I feel like that they were not honest about certain things, but they were kind of glamorizing the crappier shit for fun. Like in that film, spoilers. They go to rehab and they like, yeah, there was a lot of emotions and crying, but who wants to see that shit? Let's move on. It's like, no, that's
the character development.
That's where I actually start to empathize and care with where you guys are. And I feel like there was a missed opportunity there. So when it comes to like biopics, I think the best balance that it has is when there's enough emotional honesty, and also it lets us just really connect with them as people rather than just make the assumptions that we will like them because we're fans of the band. I think that's a little too much of preaching to the choir and not make good storytelling. I feel like movies like Love and Mercy do that so much better.
I almost want to defend myself because it's not so much that the Live Aid sequence is a good sequence.
It's just better.
It's just the best of a giant pile of shit.
Was there anything you guys liked outside of the Live Aid sequence?
Rami Malek's performance was pretty good.
I agree.
He was working.
He was great considering the material he was given with. I like the fact that they had Mark Martel do the vocal dubbing because he went viral online not too long ago for having a very uncanny resemblance to Freddie Mercury, and he can do the voice pretty well. It is cool that they had him involved. Like on paper, there's a lot of great things about this film, but the execution, the main through line, and the whole intent behind it is sus as fuck, and I don't like it.
I also want to just kind of like bring this up for a second because this film was nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars in 2018.
Yep.
Which means that the Academy nominated this over Logan, You Were Never Really Here.
No,
Mother,
Logan didn't come out that year.
Did it? It came out in 2017.
No, Bohemian Rhapsody came out 2018.
Ah, well, this actually, I guess my main point is this got in over First Reformed.
Yeah.
Really?
Holy shit! Yeah, no, you could just end it right there.
That's all I
End
need
of discussion.
to say.
Yeah.
Just fuck Logan. I mean, it was worth it was worth bringing up, but now I'm just mad. God, this film is a catastrophe. It is the unironic version of Dewey Cox. There is no shred of originality or passion. It's janky. It is poorly made, poorly edited, and it's probably one of the most disrespectful films I've ever seen about a musician that I actually care a great deal about, and I love their music, and his music specifically. This is insultingly bad. And are we ready to give ratings?
Yes, let's.
Bohemian Rhapsody, the film that makes me wonder if this is real life or just a fantasy. But I'm starting to lean into the latter. 3.
And I'm giving this a 3 out of 10.
You guys are too generous.
I feel like even that is being generous.
I'm giving this steaming pile of shit a 2.5 out of 10. And I'm giving Devon's pitch a 10 out of 10. That sounds really good.
Yeah.
Well done.
Absolutely.
I would love to. I would love
they should have hired you.
I know. Well, they probably would have hated my guts for doing this bold, brash, experimental version of Freddie's story. But I feel like he
bold and brash.
I
just
well,
reminds
it belongs
me
in the trash.
Yeah.
Well, failing the fact that so they made their film. Sacha Baron Cohen was taken off the project. I feel like the only way that I could possibly salvage my pitch is if I take into the realm of parody. So instead of Innuendo, a portrait of Freddie Mercury, I'll do Innuendo, a caricature of Frankie Jupiter, starring Sacha Baron Cohen playing not Freddie Mercury.
Okay. Take my money. If I was a producer, I would fund that right now.
I would fund both of your ideas.
Wow. What a
100 episodes, guys. Thank you so much to everyone.
Episodes. What an episode.
Who's listening?
Uh-oh.
What?
Do you know what next week is?
Oh no.
It's the first week of Spooky Month. That's right. All month long we have all spooky episodes. It's the month of October. It's Spookytober. We've got horror movies wall to wall. Starting next week, October the 6th, our 101st episode, we will be looking at Ian's trilogy of meta commentary and deconstruction.
Woo!
That's right. We're reviewing Scream. We're reviewing In the Mouth of Madness, and a recent film that I actually reviewed quite some time ago at the Little Rock Movie Tavern. You can find my initial reaction, first thoughts for Bodies, Bodies, Bodies over on the Tavern Talk channel on YouTube. So we're going to be talking about Scream, we're going to be talking about Mouth of Madness, a little Carpenter, a little Craven, and a little bit of new wave, a little bit of Gen Z humor. It's Bodies, Bodies, Bodies.
Time to get schooled on the new wave of horror, because it's episode 101.
Absolutely.
Nice. Have a great night, guys. It's getting late, so we should head out. As always, it's first day yet. Stay tuned for Conan. Cheers, guys. Have a great night.
Good